Yeah, so many know us and some don't. This is Caitanya Das. I'm Jivananda dasi. And like Gayatri said, about 43 years ago we teamed up and we're teaming up again tonight. Having a second go. This week...
We weren't up to it before now.
Yeah. Took 43 years to build the confidence up to do this. This night and next Sunday night, we're going to team up together and talk about the topic of death and dying. And but before we get into tonight, on behalf of Caitanya Das and myself, we first of all would like to give our thanks and our hearts to our spiritual teacher, Jagad Guru Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa, because frankly without him, his guidance in our life, we would have nothing to say to you, okay? And we also would like to pay our deep respects, our dear respects to all of you gathered here tonight as well. So namaste.
Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Pastaya Bhutale, Srimati Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Tanamane, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadeva Gaur Bhaktivinoda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Hare. In this month of August, Artur, do I need to sit on the mic?
Yeah, you can.
I do, okay, otherwise it doesn't work. In this month of August, there's a program's running nationally through Australia, and it's called the Dying to Know programs, and it's all about getting individuals and small groups, large groups, communities together and opening up discussions about death and dying. It's something that is not a familiar topic in modern life. And so when we heard about this promotion in August, we thought, aha, Mantra Room, yeah, we definitely want to get on board with this one as well, and spend a couple of weeks talking with friends who come along on Sunday night about death and dying. And we're going to be talking about it solely from the platform of yoga philosophy, the yoga path, okay? And shining some light onto this subject, this light coming from the illumination of the yoga path. Now, to understand death, we have to understand its partner, life. What is life? If we know what life is, we'll understand what death is. And if we know what death is, we'll understand what life is. They go together. They're two sides of the same coin. Now, last week, Gayatri got the ball rolling, and she gave a very nice talk about aham brahmasmi, that we're not this physical body, that we are the spirit soul that resides within this body. And she also touched upon this knowledge tonight during that guided Guranga breathing, yeah? So this is going to be the comfy seat that we're going to be sitting on during these talks over the next 2 weeks. From that platform that aham brahmasmi, I'm not the physical body, I'm the soul within. And we're going to investigate the topic of death and dying from that perspective. And Caitanya Das is going to do most of the talking tonight. And he's going to share with you his own personal experiences with this. And it's a pretty cool journey to go on with him. And hopefully at the end of it, I know it for myself, it's true, that it helps me to be happy in the understanding that it doesn't matter who I am or my situation in life, my place in society, etc., that through this simple process, this simple yoga process of hearing and chanting sacred yoga mantras, that we can get to live the most happy life. And even when tough challenges face us in life, we can just keep sailing along and have a fulfilled and a purposeful life and a nice, smooth, easy exit at the end. Okay, so handing it over to the boss.
I'm not the boss, of course. Thank you everyone for coming. My name is Caitanya Das, and Chaitanya means supreme living force, and Das means servant. So my name means the servant of the supreme living force. It's a hard name to live up to, but I do the best I can. So tonight is the first talk of a 2-talk series for us on the Vedic Yoga approach to death and dying that we're both giving. This is not something that we or our spiritual teacher have concocted. What we are speaking about in these talks is knowledge that comes from different texts in the Vedas. That's right. And is eternal truth. Thank you very much. Tonight I'd like to tell you about how being diagnosed with terminal cancer impacted on my life. And then later I'd like to share with you what I have experienced about how each of us can face death with knowledge, face death with a lack of fear, and face death knowing we will be protected. Next week we'd like to answer some of the common doubts and fears about death. And if we have time, talk about some practical ways we can help ourselves and help others as we approach this inevitable part of our lives. So in 2001, which is 17 years ago now, when I was 51 years old, I did a general health test. And as I was starting my 50s, I thought I should get a prostate cancer test, which is a simple blood test called a PSA test. Before I knew it, I was sitting in front of a neurologist, and he was telling me I have prostate cancer. Being diagnosed with prostate cancer was perplexing to me, as I had no symptoms. But apparently that's often the case. The urologist explained to me the cancer was advanced and aggressive, and there was no cure, but that there were ways to try and manage it. Well, anyone who has been diagnosed with any sort of cancer will know the feeling. You're basically numb after you hear that word cancer. The rest of the consultation becomes a blur. This shook my life. As I said, there is really no cure for advanced prostate cancer, and I have been endeavouring to stay ahead of the game ever since. For the last 5 years or so, I have been undergoing chemotherapy. We all know that at some time these bodies are going to die. I think the longest recorded age for someone is 122 years. And if we make it to 100, it is a huge achievement. But we usually put this to the back of our minds and get on with life. What cancer does is make it so that the concept of death is always there in the front of our mind. Every waking moment for the first few weeks, I was thinking of death and dying. Usually, when we are facing some adversity in our life, we can get some reprieve when we sleep. But I found, even when I managed to get to sleep, I dreamt of death. Sometimes I'd be in a semi-conscious state and trying to sleep, but with the recurring thoughts of death, it was often impossible. As well as the fear for myself, I was concerned for my family, my wife and my children, and the family business. How would that survive? We also had 2 children under 12 years, and I wanted to be there to help guide them through the difficult teenage years. It looked as if that wasn't going to happen. I have spoken to others who have gone through this, and it is very difficult to talk to people about what we are feeling. We are reluctant to talk too much to our loved ones for fear of upsetting them. And people we thought were friends often keep their distance because they don't want to talk or think and be reminded about cancer, about death and dying. So thoughts like I wouldn't be around to help my wife and children etc., really played on my mind. I admit it was a very fearful time for me, full of fear. So cutting the story short, initially I was thinking of doing some natural therapies, but I had some good advice from my spiritual teacher, and that was that cancer cells are super hard to kill. And if he was in my position, he would look at finding the guys on the cutting edge of Western medicine and see what they had to offer. However, natural therapies could play a part as supplementary treatment. I took that advice and found some very good doctors, but still the best they could offer me, based on past cases, was an 18% chance of surviving 5 years and about a 3% chance of surviving 10 years. So basically I've done well and exceeded those numbers, but for the last 17 years or so I have been following a medical regime that I have worked out, getting different progressive doctors' opinions on what I should do, then making my own decision. So far it has stood me in good stead, but still it is a constant battle to keep on top of the disease, and there is always death there, waiting in the wings. I have had many ups and downs with treatment. Sometimes it looks like the cancer is in remission, but more often than not, the down is when a certain treatment fails and my biomarkers send my life into free fall. Then it looks like I may only have a few months to live. So for the past 5 years or so, I have been undergoing chemotherapy, firstly with blood transfusions or infusions, and these last 3 years with daily oral medication. So Jivananda Dasi and Gayatri Dasi talked about in her Rest and Relax class about how we are not these bodies, and when the body dies, we do not die, but rather we move on from this body. This is important to remember. So we are the spirit soul inside this body. But also, each and every one of us is always accompanied by an expansion of the Supreme Soul, Krishna, our Father, our dearest friend. We are never alone. It is explained in the Bhagavad Gita that residing with us always, within everyone's heart, is the Lord in the heart, an expansion of Krishna. He is also called the Paramatma. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, Lord Krishna explains, quote, "I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of the Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas." And again in chapter 18, "The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities, who are seated as on a machine made of material energy, that is, the body." Unquote. The Lord in our heart is an expansion of the Super Soul, God, Krishna, or Krishna. He is non-different from Krishna, and He is always with us. By purifying our consciousness, hearing and singing and saying these sacred yoga mantras, we can experience and tune into the Lord in our heart. Excuse me. So getting back to my medical history, during all this time I'd been dealing with cancer, I continued meditating and kept in touch with my spiritual teacher. So about 5 years ago, when my treatment options were limited, I saw him and mentioned that I'd come to a crossroads and that I was going to do some chemotherapy, that I had exhausted all other treatments. I said from what I had read that if I didn't try chemotherapy, that I didn't think I would last 6 months. I also told him for the first time since starting treatment for the first time, I did not feel in control. He told me, my spiritual teacher told me that there were times when I would do chemotherapy that I would feel like crap. Times when I could not perform meditation. Times when I felt like dying. He told me, when that happens, forget about the external and go inwards. Go inwards and be with my best friend, the Supreme Soul. Sit beside him in my heart, just like it describes in the Bhagavad Gita. He further explained to me that the more we meditate on these mantras that we are singing and chanting here this evening, the more we will experience that we are separate from these bodies, that this world is not our home. This state where we begin to experience in meditation some separation between ourselves, the spirit soul, and our body, in yoga is called pratyahari. Another way to put it is withdrawing from the senses. From this state, it's easier to focus on the object of meditation, the Lord in the heart, Krishna. This is the importance of these sacred mantras. They open our heart. In the beginning, there is still distraction and we are not able to focus one-pointedly, but gradually, over time, we can become more focused. From there, we increasingly experience the presence of Krishna within our heart as the Paramatma. In other words, we begin to experience the happiness of communion with God, Krishna. This linking up, or feeling Krishna's presence within our heart, is real meditation and is the real goal of all forms of traditional yoga. The deeper and more one-pointed our kirtan meditation, the more one can enter this state of immersion with the Lord in the heart. So getting back to my story, after doing 18 months of chemotherapy and getting this advice from my spiritual teacher, I had the good fortune to see him again. He asked me how I was, and I said I was really happy. I said that what he had told me the last time about going inwards really helped me, and I thanked him. I said, even when there are days that I am curled in bed in a fetal position, even when I had days I could not make it to the toilet on time, and days when I think, well, my head will explode, I am still happy. He was very happy for me. He said, there is nothing else but to go inward. If we go inward and we wake up, that's okay. If we go inward and we don't wake up, that is also okay. If you surrender to Krishna, the Supreme Soul, he will look after you. He told me that I should not be a miser and that I should tell people what I have learnt and experienced. This is what I'm trying to do here today. From being present when friends who have left their body and from friends who have helped others leave, we can see how this works practically. By practicing this meditation, we understand what's happening. We understand that when the time comes, we can go inwards and be with our best friend, put our hands in his, and have the confidence he will look after us. We often think of death as an ascending process. That is, it is about us achieving a higher goal, about us giving up this life and hopefully ascending to a better place, a heaven. But the death experience is not about the external. It is not about struggling and exerting our will to achieve a goal. Pain relief, of course, but it's not about being drugged to the eyeballs so we feel nothing. It is also not about being surrounded by family and friends holding our hand, because in the end, it is just you or me going through this. Friends and family can definitely help, but not by crying, and not by telling us, as Dylan Thomas put it in a famous poem when his father was dying, do not go gently into that good night, but rage against the dying of the light. The death experience is described as not like that. It is a descending process. From being there when our friends who have understood this have left their bodies, it is an entirely different experience. The atmosphere is free from fear. We usually have mantras playing, sung softly. The person will go deep within themselves, sometimes stay there for a time, then come back to consciousness and relate to family and friends around them. This can happen many times over many days, but sometimes it can also happen quickly. If they are in pain, they are on some painkillers, but from our experience, at the end, the pain melts away. The living entity goes within, and as the Supreme Soul is within us, we can go within and sit beside Him, be with our best friend. I have experienced it is possible to do this when I am in pain, and I now have the confidence I can take this further when my time comes to leave this body. I am not anyone special. I am full of faults. We can all do this, and the key lies in these sacred mantras. So it is good having time to prepare for death, the death of this body. The more time we can put into preparing, the better. It is why sometimes it is said the goal of life is preparing for death. But what happens when death comes unannounced? For example, when we are hit by a bus and do not have time to prepare in this way. That is one of the fears and doubts we will want to talk about next Sunday. So, if anyone has any questions about what I spoke about tonight, or Jivananda Dasi has spoken about tonight, we will try to answer them before we have another chant and an evening meal. And just remember, there are no wrong questions, only wrong answers, so that it's on us. The stress is on us. So does anyone have any questions about what I've said or about death and dying generally? Someone said this is a very mellow group and no one asks any questions here. If I got one.
How you've talked a lot about it, from what I gather, affecting your belief and your dedication to your belief.
Yes.
I don't know, just be nice to talk about that more, comparative to when you got the diagnosis to now.
My belief didn't change, and it's not a belief really, because by practicing this meditation, I'd been practicing this meditation probably 20 years before I was diagnosed. I think that's about right, 15 anyway. And during that time, you start off chanting these mantras and chanting with kirtan and sometimes on beads if you prefer. And during that time, yes, you start with a little faith that is going to improve, make you a better person. But over time, you actually start experiencing some different small openings into that spiritual world. The Lord in the heart shows you different things, and it increases your faith when you start to see how this is so effective. And so it ceases to, at one point it ceases to be a belief, and you start to experience how this is actually real. And so I knew that in theory when I was diagnosed, but it wasn't until after I received this cancer and after some time I actually started experiencing that I'm not the body, experiencing that the Lord in the heart, and experiencing that this philosophy, if you like, is real. I hope that answers. Thank you. Anyone else? I've wowed them all. So maybe we'll...
We're going to have a chant.
So we've talked about the importance of listening to, singing and saying these sacred mantras. They are all different names of God. And if you are from a religious background and you have a different name of God that is more familiar to you, those names can also be used. But we prefer the names we chant here: Krishna, Rama, Chaitanya, Gauranga, Govinda, etc. Sometimes we will also sing the names of Jesus, a devotee of God. But this is not a religion, and other names of God are also effective. So, to finish up, Jivananda is going to sort of lead a chant, and she's going to lead a chant of the Maha Mantra, which will be up on the screen, and that's Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And I'd just like to read out a quote before we start chanting. Our spiritual teacher talks about these names of God, and I quote, "These names of Krishna are the transcendental aeroplane to get you to the destination which is eternal and full of love, because Krishna is there personally. There you will find the absolute truth. It is very simple. You are an eternal spirit soul, part and parcel of Krishna, God. You are in a temporary body that is going to die. It is mortal, but you are eternal. You are wearing the body only for a certain amount of time. Then you will need to leave it. The secret to entering into the spiritual world, which is your natural home, your real home, is to hear and chant the names of God, Krishna. The transcendental aeroplane of the names of Krishna will carry you to the abode of Krishna. The names of Krishna are not different than Krishna. So you actually rest in Krishna before you travel or leave your body to be with Krishna." Unquote. So I'd like to ask you, while we do this kirtan, to not only participate and chant after Jivananda Dasi does, but to chant these sacred mantras in a meditative way. Concentrate on the sound of the words as Jivananda Dasi leads, and think of these words as a transcendental breeze, a spiritual current, picking you up and taking you on a spiritual journey. You can read the mantra on the screen and concentrate your mind on the form of the words if you like, and concentrate your ears on the sound. Then chant from the heart. Open your heart and embrace these sounds. If you know the mantra already, you can close your eyes and still concentrate on the words in your mind while chanting from the heart. So let's listen to Jivananda Dasi's chant.
Okay. Like Caitanya Das said, it's the Maha Mantra. If you're unfamiliar with it, it's made up of 3 words: Hare, Krishna and Rama, in different pattern, and it's on the screen, easy to follow along. Caitanya Das and I love to chant, but my disclaimer is we're not that good at things like guitars and stuff, so hoping enthusiasm outweighs talent. But please join in. Yeah. Trying to remember my tune. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. You go.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,